I've unexpectedly got an extra hour, so why not? Okay, let's get some more people on. So yeah, the new backgrounds worked really well. Now, it hasn't gotten us up to 200 viewers like the previous background was able to do, but it's still a lot better, an awful lot better than before. We've basically, the new background has basically doubled the number of viewers, which is really good. And yeah, means we can definitely get more debates going. And we also didn't get any restrictions with this background, so that's more fantastic news. So yeah, I've got another free hour to do some more debates or answer more questions or have more discussions if anybody wants. So bring it on. I'm ready. I'm ready to defend extinction. Are you ready to defend life? Are you ready to defend extreme suffering? Or will you join us and say extreme suffering is unacceptable? Nobody should have to be forced into a bad life ever again. James, what do you do for work? I'm unemployed at the minute, actually, so that's why I've got free time to do loads of activism. Ironically, I'm not actually that rich, so I do take PayPal support on for helping out. But either way, you know, I'd probably rather you donate to the movement anyway. So the links to donate to both me and the movement are on my profile. Israel48 is saying, explain. I'm guessing you... By the way, if you ever get sent an invitation on to watch a live stream, that is an automatic thing, right? So I'm not actually pushing anything to do that. TikTok does that automatically. So it might seem like people are spamming you. TikTok will spam you. But yeah, let's explain extinction. So total extinction is the only right thing to do. People have grown up believing a lie that that suffering is acceptable. So, you know, it should be obvious that, you know, a life of extreme torture is unacceptable. And yet people have somehow grown up thinking that extreme suffering is acceptable. So people also have the faulty understanding that life existing is more important than there being safety from extreme suffering. Meaning that even if life is being tortured, you know, is in the worst conditions, people still think that it should exist, even if it suffers terribly. So that's, you know, completely upside down, and we need to change the world, educate them that extreme suffering is not acceptable, right? It's not fair, it's not okay. And, you know, people have lied to themselves and, you know, convinced themselves that there's a happy balance. Well, how convenient for you. But have the victims and the sufferers agreed to this, you know, magical balance that you think there is? No, there is no balance which makes it okay for people to be tortured, right? Just think how many animals and humans are going through lives of pure hell, begging for death, wishing they'd never been born. How many babies and children end up dying at an early age with a life of extreme suffering, right? How many parents are abusing their children literally to death, right? Lots of parents actually murder their children after an entire life of extreme abuse. So that's not acceptable, right? If you really think that, you know, child abuse and animal suffering and abuse is acceptable just so that some people can have a good life, then that is the definition of immorality, right? That's the definition of saying, basically, I mean, the thing is, right? So I've explained before that you either have a zero tolerance policy on extreme suffering and support extinction, or you have an infinite acceptance of extreme suffering and you support life no matter what, right? No matter how badly it suffers. So it's kind of like you're either moral or you're immoral, right? Do you care about suffering? Are you willing to do the right thing and to consider extreme suffering when you're taking actions? Or do you just not give a flying fuck about extreme suffering and you're willing to allow it, ignore it, you don't care, it's not even on your radar, right? So you can't have morality without understanding that extreme suffering is unacceptable, right? And most people are not trying to be moral. Most people don't care about morality. It's actually the biggest threat to them, right? Empathy and morality is the biggest threat to people's selfish lives, essentially. So that's why you have to consider, you know, that's why they don't do activism. That's why they don't care. And it's also why when they're arguing and debating against extinction, it's essentially excuses, right? So, imagine that, like, you've stolen something from your best mate and you don't want him to know, and he's asking you about it, right? You're going to come up with any excuse possible, like, oh, I don't know, or, oh, why do you care anyway, bro? Like, you bought that years ago, or, you're just going to come up with excuse after excuse, like, you know what, you didn't need that jacket anyway. Like, just forget about the jacket. Or, oh, me? No, I didn't even like that jacket. Well, I wouldn't steal it. So that's the same thing that you go through when you're trying to explain extinction to people, right? That suffering is unacceptable. It's like, oh, well, isn't it subjective? Or who are you to say extreme suffering is unacceptable? So just any excuse. And it's basically gaslighting as well. Like, in case you guys haven't noticed, throughout essentially every single debate, you can pretty much understand the other people, the pro-lifers, as basically trying to gaslight, right? That is kind of what their argument boils down to most of the time, right? They're trying to gaslight you, and they're not very good at it either, right? So when they say, like, why don't you start with yourself? They actually think that there's a chance that you'll actually do it, right? They really are that naive, essentially. So it's like a child with its hand in the cookie jar, being like, my hand's not in the cookie jar, right? It's like, you're not going to gaslight me into thinking that your hand's not in the cookie jar, little Johnny. It's not going to work, right? And so when people are like, why don't you start with yourself? That'll do total extinction. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to believe that, little Johnny. Nice try. Okay. And yeah, when they say stuff like, suffering's not that bad, or, suffering in nature, oh, that's just life, that's just natural. So it's like, we're not going to buy that, you'd have to be really unintelligent to believe that, essentially. But unfortunately, most people can be gaslit, they can be tricked into thinking the wrong thing, and they've had it done to them, right? They've been indoctrinated by this evil society. They've been indoctrinated by evolution, right? So yeah, most people are monsters. And the solution is, I mean, look, could we get everyone to agree with extinction, right? Yeah, we probably could do it. But the thing is that at this stage in time, it's not about getting people to agree with it, because that doesn't actually help, right? Let's say you get someone who doesn't care to agree with it. What difference does it make? They don't care. So we need to find people that actually care and who will do activism, right? So most people will not agree with it, or most people, even if they agree with it, they won't care. So that applies to 99% of humanity, right? 99% of humanity, we have the intelligence to make them agree with extinction. We can do it. But right now we have no way to, propagate that, essentially. And so even if I go and convince someone, I can't at the moment make them care enough to do activism for it. And even if we could make them care enough to do activism for it, most people don't seem to have enough intelligence or rationality to think about this properly and responsibly, right? So, we don't want them to care about it and then say, yeah, we need to nuke the world, right? So we need intelligent people that are essentially not, hampered by all of this stuff. You can control the thoughts you keep and the ones you dismiss. That's a nice thought, Gaia, but in practice, it doesn't really work like that, unfortunately. A and B is saying, this is very Reddit. Well, why don't you say that to my face? Come and debate me. Bithia, how you doing?
Hi. Hi, I'm good. I have a question. So how do you like how I don't freaking know the word. How do you combat with people who are like, oh, well, some people don't want to like, because we have to be moral about it. You get what I mean? Like some people actually like really do think that if they die, they're gonna feel pain and like, oh, dying is so bad because they think that their life is more important than ending suffering for other people, right? So like that in itself, like if we're gonna go around and make everyone extinct, it means that eventually we're gonna have to end people's lives.
Yeah.
How do we go about like not feeling guilty? Because it's like, in a way we are kind of inflicting harm on them. You get what I mean? Even though it's like the final harm and the most positive harm that we can inflict on someone, possibly,
Well, we
it is
just have
still
to do it
harm.
in the best way we can, right? But the thing is that it's really important to understand that we can't take our time with it, right? So let's say we get to the end of the mission, we're thinking about human extinction. We're not going to say, right, anybody that wants to live out the rest of your life, you just go for it, right? So that's not going to be an option. And being alive is bad for you, essentially. So you have to view it that way, to where it's like, okay, these people not being alive essentially helps them, right? And so it's not about, oh, it's cruel to, just do it. Let's give them some time and stuff. Okay, yeah, look, there might be room to let people say goodbye and all that stuff. I can't guarantee there
Mhm.
will be, though, right? What we have to care about is things being done correctly, essentially. So, we have to work towards an ethical organization that's going to do things intelligently and correctly, rationally. That is what we've already got. That's what we're already building. So, in that sense, a lot
Mhm.
of the small details, essentially, you just have to trust that the correct decision will be made, and it will be done in the most ethical way possible, right? So we are going to have to consider, should we
Yeah.
allow people to stay alive a little bit longer to tie up loose ends or say goodbye to their family, or do we have to stay to the principle that being alive is bad, and so no, we don't allow that. So these are smaller questions, right? We could think about it now, but we don't need to. And there's lots of these questions. That's what you need to understand. There's loads and loads of little questions that you could ask about extinction, like how exactly are we
Mhm.
going to do the revolution? What are you going to do for the last person? But these are all these aren't necessary questions, right? These don't help you agree to extinction. Those are just parts of the technicalities,
Yeah,
essentially,
I
right?
see what you mean, James. Yeah. My other question is, what do our donations go to? Like, what are we exactly doing with our money, if you get what I mean?
Yeah, so we don't really get many donations at the minute. So the movement's had maybe a few $100s, $300 or $400 in the whole time since it started. But so far that has been used to purchase some a stand, essentially like a stick, a tripod for cameras, basically. So we've got more. Basically, most of the money that's been donated is still in the bank account, and we're reserving it for a better use, right? So we're not just spending it willy nilly. We're trying to spend it as wisely as we can. And really, at the minute, we have more need for activists than we have for money. So, we would rather explain things to people and get new activists instead of just begging for money, basically.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. And do we have like a plan for like what we're gonna do like when we get more money? Like, is do we have because like kind of what I'm thinking is like we even though like there is like a bunch of little questions that we have to answer to actual make progress with this. Um, we have to like start off with like the first ones like okay what exactly like concrete things are we like I feel like that will also get people to like take us a bit more seriously because
Yeah,
most of
I
the
mean,
time it's
I think these are kind of secondary questions, right? So the most important thing is that you start making videos, you start growing the movement, and that's what everyone does. That's what all the activists in the movement do. And then they start thinking about secondary things like that as well.
all right, thank you for your time though, that was cool. See ya.
Yeah, thank you again, Bithia, for coming up. It is a good question, though. What should we spend the money on? But we don't really have any money right now. So, like I said, you have to pick and choose when to answer questions, right? Do I need to answer this question now or not, right? And so, we don't have any money to really spend. But look, if we did have more money, what would we do with it? Well, we're not fully sure right now. But look, advertising and boosting videos on TikTok, for example, has only turned out to be a waste of money, and the same with YouTube, right? It really doesn't work. So we kind of the only thing we'd really spend money on right now would be like equipment for activism, and for example, we've got merch coming out soon. We've got T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, sweaters. We're going to be releasing those soon. So potentially that could be used by the donations to like send an activist a T-shirt or something. But we are quite reserved with using the donations, so it would be a serious decision to make. Okay, moving on. We've got more people in the queue. Let's get the next person up. How do you plan a forceful extinction?
Hello?
By getting people to make it happen. Hello, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I don't have a debate, but I do have a question for you.
Okay, bring it on.
I saw in I have commented on a couple of your videos where you said that everybody should be pro-extinction for everything, but the question is, how are you going to do that? Like, what's the first thing that you would do if you became Prime Minister or something? What would you do?
Well, if we ruled the planet, then we would start with animal extinction and researching.
I'm not talking about ruling the planet. I mean, in one of your videos, you said you were wanting to become Prime Minister to try and help the people in this country to like promote pro-extinction and stuff. What would be the first step for this country, do you think? Like realistically?
Well, a pro-extinction agenda, basically. That would essentially be it. Now, realistically, we don't expect it to work like this, right? I don't think it's a likely event that I'm going to be a prime minister, unless the whole world is moving in that direction, essentially. So I don't think in the current situation there's a high chance of me being prime minister. But we are actually looking into opening political parties. So that costs a bit of money as well, actually. That's another thing that we could use the donations on. It costs a couple £100 just to register a political party in the UK, and you need a few people on the record to do it as well. But what would we do if I ran the UK? Well, I guess I would just be trying to grow the pro-extinction movement, basically. We would, yeah, I mean, that would be the main thing, but it's not likely to happen.
Okay, thank you. Also, one more question. Because when you run for Prime Minister, you have to have like, what's it called? Like stuff that you say you're going to do to try and make people vote you for stuff. Like, what would you say that you would do for people if you wanted the pro-extinction thing to like carry on and stuff?
Well, obviously we'd have the principles of the movement, and then in terms of like to make people happy, I guess we would just promise to work towards like the most ethical world possible, right? So we would have a greater focus on suffering-focused ethics. Like that's one of the main ways that we would do it, like change things. So for example, right, euthanasia is not really very accessible. So that's something that needs greater consideration. Looking at like old people, right? Should old people be put to sleep as well? Not all of them. It sounds funny. I'm just I've made that sound like a blanket statement. But the thing is, at the minute, right? For example, in care homes and hospitals, a lot of the staff will say like, this person really shouldn't be alive, right? It's just ridiculous amounts of suffering for no reason. So that's something that should happen, right? So that you don't have to, get to old age and worry about suffering terribly through it. So that you can say, well, someone will help me be safe from that suffering. So I think that would be one step in the right direction.
Also, this might be a stupid question to ask, but is this not like illegal what you're doing, like promoting people to die?
That's a great question. I've looked into it, and technically, no, it is perfectly legal. Because for it to be illegal, at least in the UK, it would have to represent a realistic and imminent threat.
Do you not think that carrying on with this movement will not somehow like turn into a cult where people like try and kill themselves to get out of this world, like extinction and stuff? They obviously don't want to be here that much longer. So do you not think that might be another outcome if people follow?
Yeah, I think it's a strong possibility, right? As we, educate the world more and more on how bad life is and how bad it is for you to be alive, there probably will be something like that happen. But, we wouldn't support that. Suicide is something that we're against. We need more humans working towards a scientific, extinction, essentially. So the more humans, the better. Right? If humanity goes extinct, animals will continue to suffer for billions of years, right? So we can't allow that, basically.
Okay, thank you. That was all my questions.
All right. Thank you for coming up. Great questions. Okay, moving on. We've got more people in the queue. Not too many, though. So if you want to have a debate, then get into the queue and we'll try and bring you up. Hello, how's it going?
Hi, I was just wondering what had led you to creating this I want to say it's a very dangerous movement. I could see where you're coming from. However, I do not agree with this at all.
Okay. Well, I didn't start the movement. It started about 4 years ago, and I only joined 1 year ago. But the idea is to end all suffering, right? And so ending suffering is more important than life existing, right? And if you don't find suffering unacceptable and terrible lives unacceptable, then you just end up with a terrible world, basically, where there's just unlucky ones suffering terribly for the rest of time.
I have a question. Do you know what causes suffering? I'm just trying to ask.
Life. Yeah. Life.
No, mindset. Shitty mindset causes suffering.
So,
I don't think you realize.
So let me ask you a question. What about a child being abused? Is that just a bad mindset?
No, that's circumstances that
Right,
we.
so there you go. It's not just about mindset, right? You can be a victim of cancer or abuse or a car crash, right? It's not just about mindset.
We all are going through something. Does it mean we deserve it? No, but we can all change our mentalities in our situations by bettering our mindsets. And
animals can't do that, right? That doesn't work for animals, babies, children, disabled people.
Animals are energetically connected to each other. They don't need to communicate. How do you think birds form flocks? They form flocks by a collective energy.
So animals don't suffer?
They're not suffering. They don't see it like that.
How
do you speak for animals?
So do you think?
How do you speak for animals when you can't speak to an animal? That's what I find hilarious.
So do you think that animal abuse should be allowed because they don't suffer?
Nobody is like, okay. So animal abuse, the thing is, you don't believe in a karmic world. You don't believe in God.
Yeah, so look, do you think animals suffer? Because you said no. So by that logic, we should allow animal abuse.
No,
right?
The ones in the wild do not suffer. They are not suffering.
Why not?
Because they have everything they need.
But most of them get eaten alive. Is that not a form of suffering?
That is called the circle of life. You clearly do not know.
So if you saw your baby get eaten alive, you would just say that's just the circle of life.
My baby would not be eaten alive because I would not put my baby.
Yeah, because you're like, if they get eaten alive, fuck them. But my baby, then I care, right? So it's just a horrible mentality, right? Of safety for me, but not for thee, right? Caring for me, but not for thee. If my baby gets eaten alive, oh my God, this is not okay. Someone else's baby gets eaten alive. Well, that's the way it's meant to be. Don't you understand? So do better, okay? Let's do better than that. And anybody else want to debate? Let's get you up. There's currently nobody in the queue. Sloupy in the chat is asking, host, are you a vegan? No. Unfortunately, both veganism and antinatalism both cause more suffering. Because essentially, veganism restores forests, and that causes even worse suffering in greater numbers. So if the world went vegan, then the forests on the planet would actually double, basically. And the number of, let's say the world goes vegan, right? There's going to be 100 billion less farmed animals, and there's going to be 100 quintillion more wild animals suffering terribly, where basically, 99% get eaten alive. They're starving to death. They're freezing to death, burning alive in wildfires. They're full of parasites. There's no shelter from the rain and the storms, right? They're just being chased by terrifying, vicious animals, predators, running for their life all day, every day, and then being eaten alive, right? So wild animals have the worst time possible. And unfortunately, vegans support rewilding and creating more wild animal suffering. So that's why veganism is a problem at the minute. Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe talk to you. I feel like you got a lot of contradictions in your mindset here.
Let's hear it. I assure you
Yeah,
there are none, but and I assure you that you will be demystified by the end. But let's go for it.
you seem to, well, as a blanket statement, I want to say this is a horrifying ideology to have. I think
Why?
someone's probably, I'll get to it in a
The
second. I
end of
think
all
people,
suffering is horrifying. Only for selfish people, right? Who
yeah,
enjoy
I'll get to
watching
it.
suffering for entertainment.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I just want to let you know someone's probably gonna not like this in real life, and they might do something about it. So prepare yourself for that. But
Well,
not me.
I'm willing to to do the right thing, even if it puts me in danger.
Okay. Yeah. So you say you don't care for suicide, yet that would be in agreement with your ideology. What you're
No, it
asking for
wouldn't.
is,
So suicide is
well, I'm just gonna
counterproductive
hold
to
on. Let me lay
extinction.
out my point.
Well, no, because
What-
you've just made a
what-
massive
No,
mistake.
no,
So
no.
to
I
lay out your
haven't.
point, it's going to be on
Allow
that
me,
debate, right?
allow me to finish, and then please take it
Well,
apart.
no. How about no? So we're actually against suicide. Well, look, if you don't want to go through it properly, then we'll just move on to someone else, okay? So look, he didn't like the fact that I was trying to correct him that we're against suicide, right? He's like, no, you're for suicide. And I'm like, that's literally counterproductive to extinction. And we tell people that we're against it. And he's like, no, let me continue on. It's like, okay, you're out of here. Moving on. Let's see who's next. A couple people in the queue. Let's bring someone up. Hello.
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 Hi.
So I just fundamentally just don't understand how this moral framework benefits anybody or anything besides, like, I guess the earth.
So, do you not realize that lots of people are going through bad lives right now? So they'd be better off by not being born.
What about the people going through really good lives?
It's more important to have no bad lives than it is to have some good lives.
To who? The people that have good lives?
Well, no, to good people, essentially.
Well, wouldn't the better alternative be making a good life for everybody, which is still a really silly, like, infantile belief, instead of just killing
So
everybody like
why are
a
you
toddler?
suggesting a bad idea?
Well, I mean, it's just like, it's
So,
just
so
defeatist. It
wouldn't it be
doesn't
better to do
benefit
something that
anybody.
makes no sense? That's your argument.
What?
So you've just said, wouldn't it be better to do something that makes no sense?
Give everybody, well,
All
to
right,
be
you're
honest,
finished,
neither
you're
of them.
cooked, you're served, you're out of here, right? So instead of suggesting something that you admit makes no sense, why don't you suggest something that you think makes sense, right? I'm not going to argue against something you don't even think makes sense. Hello, how you doing?
Okay, so I have a question. How do you plan on going through the mass extinction? Because
Yeah,
I
so
just don't understand.
yeah, so it's simple. We grow the movement with peaceful activism until we have enough people to take over the world, start running it ethically, and start carrying out animal extinction and researching the most advanced and vast extinction that we can do, basically. So
Okay,
researching what is
so
the best
like
extinction that we can do instead of rushing it.
without pain, right? Or is it like nuclear or something?
It's not going to be nuclear, and ideally there will be no pain, but if there has to be pain, then that's the way it will be.
Okay, thanks. Have a nice day.
All right, you too. Thanks for coming up. And yeah, enjoy life while you still can, basically. Or even better, do activism for the end of all suffering so that nobody has to be tortured ever again, right? No animal, no person, nobody has to be forced into a terrible life ever again. Become an activist today. Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, cool. I guess my question is why? Like, why would we
Because
go about it?
yeah, because there's animals and humans going through lives of extreme hell where they'd be better off not being born and not existing, not living. So it's not fair, it's not right, and that is the ultimate harm if you think about it, right? To force someone into a life of extreme suffering. So the worst thing possible that you can do to someone that should be against the rules, basically, right? So the only way to do that is to work towards a universal extinction, essentially.
Why aren't you working to better the world? I don't see why we have to make everything die.
Yeah, because the thing is that you're not caring about extreme suffering, right? So this is the best way to prevent extreme suffering, to provide safety from it, right?
Well, I'd agree that a lot of people are ignorant, but can I ask you a question? Like, what type of car do you drive? Like, just brand?
I don't drive.
You don't drive? Okay, never mind, never mind. Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of people will claim they don't like climate change and global warming, but they'll still drive cars claiming it's a necessity. So I
Well,
do
yeah,
think
but
a
they're
lot.
not doing activism, are they?
Right, right. So I do agree that there is some stuff that you can do, and I appreciate you actually like standing by your word. However, I still don't agree with the take that all people need to die to prevent suffering. I think we can work towards as a society.
So,
Um,
but the thing is, right? There's no way to actually guarantee safety from suffering without extinction, right? Is there? Right? So you're saying that we should basically just not care about suffering and just never work towards ending it, right? But in the same way
well,
that reducing slavery instead of ending slavery would have been, like extremely evil, right? Reducing suffering instead of ending suffering is even more evil because suffering is worse than slavery.
I mean, would you not take the what about the inverse, like the possibility of good? Do you not think that that outweighs some suffering?
But how many victims are okay, right? You're basically saying, we shouldn't care if there's suffering. Happiness is more important. So, by that logic, you're just saying, I don't care if there's infinite suffering as long as I get to be happy.
Well, I mean, we can look at it this way.
Is that not correct, though?
I mean, I'm not trying to disregard their suffering. I'm just saying that.
Really? But you are downplaying it to some extent, right? Whereas we're
Right,
saying it's
yeah.
top priority, you're saying it's not.
Well, I mean, I do think, okay. Well, I guess it's just your perspective. It's like half empty, half full type of thing.
It's
So
not. It's not half empty, half full, right? There are children being violently raped to death, like today, right? So that's not a half cup. That's a
okay,
bit worse
well,
than that, right?
let's look at it this way. A child who got raped at 3, right, goes on to become a
What? All of them?
multi-billion.
All of them?
Yeah, let's just say
Every
we're
single
taking
one. None of them get murdered.
no, we're taking
All
one.
right, that's it
Let's
then.
say,
You're finished. You're done. You're cooked and served. He's gotten to the point where no children got murdered ever. No children ever get murdered. So yeah, he's floating outside of reality at this point, and we're going to move on to somebody who is still tethered to the real world. Okay, moving on. We've got Harmony coming up next. Harmony, we're loading you up, or potentially somebody else if they're not going to load. Okay, we've got Older V. No, they're not. Oh yes, hello. How you doing?
Yo,
Do you have any questions?
so I just wanted to, 1 second, never mind.
Okay, well, fair enough. Thank you for coming up and sharing a moment with us. Lovely. Okay, moving on. Harmony, yeah, we can get you on afterwards. Brian, hello.
Hi, good morning. I don't know if it's morning where you're at, but
Afternoon.
yeah, afternoon, right on. This is my first time coming across like your philosophy, and I can see why it's really helpful in questioning a lot of like the philosophies out there that are not helpful. And so that it's really cool to watch you talk about it. The only thing that comes up to my mind that I'm wondering what your thoughts are is one of my favorite authors, Kurt Vonnegut. He was an atheist, and he once told someone, "Do not rob me of the quality of my suffering." And I work in hospice, so I'm like a type of hospice counselor, and I like fight mass deportation out here in California, and I'm constantly in touch with suffering. And I do a lot of things to alleviate suffering. But I think what I've learned over the course of my life is the ultimate violent act is not suffering itself, but it's taking away people's ability to make meaning out of their suffering. And so,
Really?
yeah, so this is what it feels like for me, and it's something I haven't like resolved for myself, and I'm thinking about it all the time.
So,
But
so
it's like,
like an animal being, tortured to death, are they ever going to have meaning, even if they don't get tortured, right? Look, most animals in nature don't get any sort of meaning, right? And it's often true for humans. Lots of them don't get any sort of meaning or anything.
that's very true. I mean, like I've read a few books on animal cognition, and I don't think we're smart enough to know what animals think or how they
Well, we know
perceive.
that they suffer, though, right?
Absolutely, yeah,
And
absolutely.
we also know that they don't really have good lives either. So it's basically just suffering for no point.
But we do not have a world where we don't have suffering. What you're
Extinction.
what
Extinction.
what you're advocating for is an intervention to end suffering. And my thing is, just as someone who believes in autonomy, I don't think anyone should have the right to end my suffering if I don't want to end my suffering. I think that
Right, but preventing billions of years of more suffering is more important than anybody's personal desires, essentially, right? It's to prevent them from reproducing or hurting other people or doing anything else to make things worse. And so it's not acceptable, right? That freedom that you're talking about is the same freedom which allows child abusers to go and kidnap children and torture them. So agency, freedom, it's ultimately all it does is cause suffering.
but the denial of that to me, and I'm someone again who
Of
deals
the denial of the ability to abuse children, right? With that same freedom, right? That,
I mean,
yeah.
the denial
So
to
it's
exist.
more important to have no suffering. That's more important than anybody's personal wishes.
Yeah, I can hear that, and I see why you think that. I think for me, taking away billions of life forms like existence because there's a chance that they're going to cause suffering in the future is a violent act. I think it's an
But there's
act.
going to be more violence if we don't do that, right? Much, much more. So if you care about, if you think violence is bad, then extinction is your friend.
That's really it. Do you ever talk about like politics or anything like that, or your like how you arrived at this philosophy for yourself? It's fascinating. I've never talked to anyone with your perspective before.
It's
And
a
I,
new idea for the world, basically. It's a brand new idea for the world, essentially.
but what about for you personally? Like, how long have you pursued this?
The movement started 4 years ago. I joined 1 year ago when I was invited, and I knew nothing about it before then, and it just made perfect sense to me immediately, like instantly.
Yeah, I can totally see if you look at the world with that metric. It's just that as someone
Well,
myself,
it's a metric or perspective of responsibility, right, and fairness and ethics.
I
So
think
most people are not trying to do that.
I think that I personally struggle with over responsibility. I have overlearned my responsibility in the world and I can control other people. Like that's kind of something that I struggle with. And I've had to learn how to not dictate other people's lives, even in like tiny interactions when someone's dying a pretty difficult death. Like for me to somehow try to alleviate their suffering against their will when it's not something that they want is an act that I don't have the right to do for another living being. I think that this philosophy is
Well, we do. The thing is, we have to use logic and reason, right? If you're going to say that, somebody being killed or having their consent violated is unacceptable, then the only logical thing to do is to support the minimization of that, which is with extinction. Whereas the alternative is the maximization of consent violation.
So I see you are advocating for ultimate control is what it sounds like to me. That's all. And and maybe there's some utility in that, but to me I think I've just discovered that control is not something
Well,
that we
you need to be able to enforce safety, right? If you can't enforce safety, then if you can't use force to defend victims, then force will be used against them, essentially.
So have you like yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, it's one way to approach the world to think that we can dictate the existence of other beings.
Well, that's what happens every day anyway, right? That's always been the case of the world. That's not a new thing.
No,
Right?
I mean,
If you don't think that we're controlling animals' lives and people's lives already, then I don't know what planet you're living on, really.
but that's like a maximal position of that, like seeking to exert control to the maximum.
Yeah,
degree.
that's not really. That doesn't matter though. That doesn't change anything.
I think it changes your position to the rest of the universe. Like, what kind of relationship do you have with the universe around you that you will set yourself over and against it in such like an intense way. Like it feels.
Brian, thank you for coming up. My relationship with the universe is sexual, right? We are going to fuck it to death with total extinction. That's all you need to know, right? Okay, moving on. We've got Harmony joining us next. No, we've got somebody else. Let's see. Right, there's a couple people in the queue that we want to get through, so let's try and bring them up. We're going to start with Harmony first. Hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you? I just scrolled past your live. Can you just give me like the foundation of your argument for pro-extinction and how you would go about doing that? Or is it like for a certain demographic or just overall suffering?
So, yeah, the framework, I guess, is that bad lives and extremely bad lives are unacceptable, right? And so only total extinction can correct that problem. And even if you're having a good life, you can still end up falling into extreme suffering, right? A terrible death or a terrible life. And so extinction is the only way to protect life from the ultimate harm of being trapped in a life of pure hell and extreme suffering, which is going on all around us, but people just don't care, essentially. So we are the only movement in the world that has started to say, we care, and extreme suffering is unacceptable, lives of pure hell are unacceptable, and we are the only movement and the only people on the planet that are actually saying that, and saying, yes, we will work towards the end of all suffering, so that nobody has to suffer ever again, no animal has to suffer ever again, and that's the only right thing to do. Ending all suffering is more important than life continuing and just, causing suffering for billions of more years.
So are there like levels to the suffering? Is like a certain demographic of people?
There's lots of different
like
types
people
of
who
suffering,
are
right? There's lots of different types of suffering, but everybody is in infinite danger of suffering. So the potential for the suffering you can experience has no limit. And that's part of the problem.
So is it more about like population control or just like
No. So total extinction means there is no population.
so even yourself?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's about understanding that being alive is bad for you, essentially, because essentially the infinite risk of extreme suffering and being trapped in a life of, infinite hell, right? There's no limit to how bad it can be. That outrules, it makes it so that there's just no point, right? It's not worth it living and suffering and exposing yourself to infinite danger for very little reward. So it's not rational for us or anyone else, right? So when you say even you, well, yeah, I don't want to be in infinite danger, right? I don't want to be trapped in a life of pure hell, begging for death every second and it never coming. So, I would rather, not be in that danger, even if it means not being alive.
Okay. All right. Because I am like pro Dr.
Pro-life?
Kevorkian. Yeah, no, not pro-life. I am pro Dr. Kevorkian, like for people who want to end. I know, like, I think in Washington State, they allow it, like, assisted.
Right. You see, but prevention is more ethical than treatment. And, we shouldn't work towards a system where, people are getting tortured for their entire life and then having to commit suicide. We should just make sure that never happens to begin with, basically.
Okay. I kind of understand your logic. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it all, but I just wanted to get like understanding of the framework and like,
Yeah.
of everything.
It's been good questions, a good start to understand it.
Yeah, so I'll listen in more. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Harmony. And consider checking our website, proextinction.com. The link is on my profile. You can read our manifesto, our FAQ, read our principles, and consider joining the movement and becoming an activist to do strictly peaceful activism to grow the movement. Hello, how you doing?
Hi, nice to speak with you.
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
I do have a couple of questions. So I came across your account and I'm also looking at the website. I don't know if it's your website or it's some other organization's website. Are you also anti-natalist?
Is it proextinction.com?
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's the same website, yeah. but yeah, cause I just like Googled pro extinction movement and that came up. So, so are you like anti-natalist as well?
No. So many of the people in the movement were antinatalists before joining the movement, and many of us were vegans as well. But both antinatalism and veganism actually are counterproductive to extinction and cause more suffering. As crazy as that sounds at first, it's actually the truth. And so with antinatalism, that doesn't help animals and it doesn't help anyone else's child either. So, me not having a kid does nothing to stop the person across the road from having 10 kids. And so we are essentially working towards a universal solution for everyone for total extinction, which means the plan is to grow the movement with peaceful activism until we have enough people to take over the world and start running it ethically. Then we start with animal extinction while researching what is the most vast and thorough extinction scientifically possible. Because the thing is that we're looking at dealing with, preventing billions of years of life and suffering. So we can't rush the extinction. It's not just about removing life. The main part of the mission is prevention of life ever coming back, and potentially doing that for the whole universe if we can. So it's just about doing the best extinction we can and investigating scientifically what the limits of that is. Can we go beyond Earth or not? And just doing the best that we can, depending on what science, determines is the best that we can do. And so for that reason, humanity has to keep reproducing until we've helped with animal extinction, right? They can't do it themselves, and made sure that, we've done the best extinction possible. Ideally, in the best case scenario, hopefully we'll be able to just replace humanity with robots and AI and just do human extinction, and then the AI can just continue on with the mission, even researching new science and new technology and continuing to do extinction. That would be the ideal scenario. But if for whatever reason we can't rely on robots, then we will have to continue on indefinitely. But even if humanity has to continue for millions of years, it's still to prevent billions of years of suffering. And we have the least suffering, the smallest population, the best conditions, and the highest ability to end suffering and prevent suffering for other species. So, even if humanity has to continue for millions of years providing extinction for animals, then it's still technically the right thing to do.
Oh, okay. I see. I see. So is it like you're kind of like indifferent to whether or not someone decides to have children, or do you think like people should specifically have children, but
Yeah.
then just raise them with like pro-extinction ideals?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So the more humans, the better. We need everyone to have children, basically, whether you're extinctionist or not. The more humans, the better. Because if the population starts going down, then that makes extinction a lot more difficult, basically. And the more humans we have now, the faster science and technology will advance, and the faster we can do a proper extinction for animals and other life, and the sooner we can do human extinction. But antinatalism itself doesn't actually achieve human extinction anyway. Humans will never voluntarily go extinct, so antinatalism isn't even an option. So you do have to do forceful extinction, otherwise life will just keep reproducing and causing suffering forever, basically. So you have to use force to defend the victims who would be born into a terrible life. And you also have to use force to defend those who would suffer despite wanting to live. So some people say, yeah, I want to keep living. But if we allow them to, then some of them will end up regretting that decision, right? They'll end up trapped in a life of pure hell, begging for death, realizing too late, too little, too late, that actually it was the wrong decision. And unfortunately, that's how life works. They're optimistic, they're blind. Yeah, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. And then they get trapped in a life of hell, and it's not fine. But, so we need to prevent that, not allow it, basically. If you make total extinction optional, then some people will suffer terribly, like horrifically. They could become the next person to have the worst life ever lived in history. So we shouldn't allow that just because people blindly want it to happen. They're just kind of hoping it won't happen to them, and they don't care if it happens to anyone else.
Oh, okay, I see. And I wanted to ask you something a little bit personal. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but basically, like, I came across a video of yours where you said, I'm not sure when you posted this, but you said last night I experienced a huge amount of suffering, and like it made me remember that, you know, suffering is inevitable and things like that. What happened to you that day?
It's kind of personal, but it was like mental pain, basically, kind of. Sort of. It was kind of like a nervous system sort of pain. Yeah, basically. But I can tell you it was
I'm
really
sorry to
bad.
hear that.
But you know, I've had lots of suffering in my life, right? That was just something that happened, a couple months ago. From the ages of 18 to 21, I had extreme chronic pain. I developed it at 18 while I was at university, and it got so bad that essentially I was unable to speak because I was in so much pain. So for 3 years, I didn't even speak because I was just in pain all over my body all the time, and it was worst in my face. So, speaking was the most painful thing I could possibly do. And so, yeah, I'd lived a life of pure hell. I was, just bedbound, basically. Couldn't really do anything, just in chronic pain, just suffering for 3 years. And then magically, one day, I just woke up and it was gone, basically. So I got lucky.
Okay, I'm very glad to hear that you're feeling better. I will say though about the having kids thing, what you went through obviously was really bad, and I'm happy that you're feeling better now. But for me, like as a woman, I kind of see it as like I'm not really an anti-natalist. I'm looking into it and I haven't like made up my mind. But for me, like part of it is like pregnancy and childbirth causes like an almost like inhumane amount of like suffering on women. And so I'm kind of like coming to the idea that women probably shouldn't have kids, which, obviously goes against your
we have to
ideology,
look
but
at all suffering.
yeah.
That's what most people are currently not doing. They're not thinking about the bigger picture. They're thinking about it in an individual level. But if you only do things on an individual level, then you're guaranteeing a terrible system for the world, basically. So we need to flip it upside down and look at all of the suffering and find a way to solve all of it. And so humanity is the solution. We need to stop putting humanity down. And unfortunately, we need to stop putting down human reproduction as well. We need to start encouraging people to see humanity as the solution, which it is, because we can't do a proper, fair and universal and animal extinction and total extinction unless humanity keeps reproducing to make it possible. So but look, that could change, right? It could be that 50 years from now we replace ourselves with robots and we don't need to reproduce anymore. And it's even possible that if that happens, that it was unnecessary to have kids now. But we don't know that, right? So until we can rely on robots and AI, we do have to keep reproducing because we are the only ones that can end suffering for animals, all of the humans, and other life as well.
Oh, okay. I see. I see what you're trying to say. So, like, I was like, my next question was just going to be like, well, if women if women stopped like reproducing, wouldn't that automatically put an end to the human race? But then you also said we need to like unalive the animals as well and exterminate them.
The animals suffer terribly,
yeah.
and they will just evolve back into humans if we're given enough time anyway.
Oh, true. That's something I hadn't even considered. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, okay, I have no more questions. I don't really agree 100%, but thank you anyway for answering. So thank you.
Well, thank you for coming up, and feel free to read more on the website or watch more videos, and let us know if you've got any more questions. Feel free to join our Discord or our WhatsApp group and continue the conversation there. The WhatsApp is a bit harder to get into. You have to be an activist to do that, or at least to understand the movement and to agree with it and support it, right? Supporters are welcome in the WhatsApp group, but the Discord is a bit more open, a bit more for everyone. Hello, how you doing? Hello? Hello? You're on the extinction zone. Okay, no, they're AFK. Moving on. We've got a couple more people in the queue. Let's bring on Raoul Fire 73. Bring on good old Raoul. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Just a quick question. I was more or less curious to how old you are.
32.
And I respect your point of view. It's pretty rough, but there's a lot of good points that you have in it. And then you were speaking upon the suffering that you did go through. I'm sorry that you went through that, but beside that, what other suffering have you encountered that jumps out at you?
What, in my personal life?
Your personal life, yeah.
What suffering that I've gone through?
Mhm.
Loads, like tons. But I don't like to make it about me because even, it doesn't matter how much I've suffered, there's still going to be others out there that have it worse, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
not about us, it's about the system, it's about everyone, it's about the world. That's what we have to start thinking about, the world instead of ourselves, basically.
Yeah, I think we are the worst thing that's ever happened to the earth is the human species.
Well, we're actually the solution, right? We're actually the best thing that's ever happened. Because if humanity didn't evolve, then suffering would just continue on forever. So the way life actually works, which is something that people will realize and understand more and more in the future, that essentially the way life works is it develops on a planet or wherever else, and it starts out as simple as possible. And essentially, the more complex it gets, the closer it gets to being self-defeating. Right? Animals can't realize, that suffering is unacceptable, it's cruel and wrong. And humans don't either, because they're still on that animalistic journey to getting to becoming more than an animal, basically. And so that's what the pro-extinction movement is. It's becoming more than an animal, and it's starting to say, yeah, no amount of suffering is acceptable. And you can kind of see the trajectory of humanity as one of becoming more and more against suffering, right? You've got antinatalists, you've got vegans now, and they were kind of the last guard essentially before all suffering became the target, basically.
I see. What are your thoughts on happiness?
It's unnecessary. It basically has zero moral value, especially in comparison to safety from suffering.
Interesting. So basically, all emotions kind of you want to do away with.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's all I had. I was just more or less curious to how old you were and your life experience, et cetera, et cetera. Because the further you get into this life, I'm 54 myself, and I still consider myself young. I've had my fair share of suffering. I've lost 2 kids. I've been homeless twice. Built myself back up, completely destroyed myself. Built myself back up, completely destroyed myself because I was toying with the idea of freedom and how much freedom we actually have. The most amount of freedom I've ever felt in my life is when I was homeless. And it was something I can't explain other than you wake up in the morning, you wake up with the birds and whatnot. Yes, you're suffering daily, intensely, but there's a freedom in that as well that I can't explain or put into words.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like a coping mechanism. That's all it is, right? There is no way to validate life. You can try, but it's just coping mechanisms. The truth is that life shouldn't exist. Being alive is bad for you, unfortunately.
So what do you believe after life? Or do you believe in an afterlife?
You rest in peace.
You rest in peace. Okay. I respect that. I respect that. Well, I hope you find your journey joyful, if there's such a thing. It was good talking to you, brother.
Thank you, Raul. Thank you for coming up. Good questions, good chat. Even if someone doesn't agree, we can always appreciate a respectful conversation. Next person, Gabriel. Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, come on.
Max Radiant gives you more.
Interesting perspective. I think I'll go with a different one. Okay, moving on. We've got Mava in the queue. We've got Infinity Art. Let's see if they'll come up. I'm just going to go straight to the bottom of the queue and see, who we can join up. We've got Chili and Pepper. Hello. Hello, Chili Pepper.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. So I've got just a couple of questions, maybe 3 or 4, depending on how the first couple of questions go.
Okay.
Number one, I want to see if I can get clarification on your position when it comes to the afterlife. Think I heard you say that you
I'm an
basically
atheist.
just.
Yeah.
So you believe that once you die here, that's it. You just sleep the eternal sleep. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you familiar with the agnostics' view?
Well, I'm an atheist, so I'm not really interested in the agnostic view.
Okay. So the agnostic view, and I understand that you're not really interested in that, but for your audience, the agnostic view is that there's no proof either way.
Yeah.
However, agnostics go on to say that if you are a gambling person, that if you are an atheist and you are right and
I get
you
it. I get it. I
sleep
get
the
where you're
eternal
going with
sleep,
this. We should worship
well, does
Jesus
your
just in
audience,
faith.
but does your audience, okay? And that's three.
Yeah. Chili, you sound like a great guy. Like it would be fun to go for a beer with you, honestly. But the thing is, if your argument is like, we should worship Jesus just in case it's the right thing, that's just like the most desperate argument possible for Jesus, right? Jesus himself would be rolling on his crucifix right now.
Hey,
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I kind of agree with the prompt a little bit, but not really. I'm not gonna use like religion though to say anything because it doesn't
Okay,
really
so
apply.
which excuse are you going with?
Well, I don't think that extinction is wrong because it really wouldn't matter. Like, sorry. Basically, I think, like, for example, like the dinosaurs. I think the dinosaurs would still be better off alive,
Why?
even if they had suffering.
Why?
Because, well, maybe not dinosaurs, I guess that was probably a bad example, but I would say for humans, we are able to, like, experience joy, and that suffering is important to have to be able to experience joy, and I just think that experiencing anything is,
So,
or
so you think there's like
experiencing.
a happy balance between suffering and joy?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, obviously, it depends because, like, if somebody is born in America, they're gonna have probably
Right.
more
I,
joy
I,
than.
I think the problem is you're thinking of it as like an average, right? Whereas we're saying that nobody should have to suffer. It's not about like if the group is okay, if the average is okay. Because if you just go by the average, then you ignore the individuals, right? You're saying who cares how badly they suffer, just it doesn't matter.
Right. I guess it's just hard to say that everybody should be extinct, though.
But it's the only fair thing, right? Think of it this way. If you had a red button which could delete the universe, would you push it? If you push it, you save all of those who are being tortured, and if you don't, then you continue to force them to be tortured for billions of more years, just so that some people can be happy.
Well, like me personally, I wasn't gonna use this to like explain anything, but me personally, I would not just because I am religious. But I can probably see the appeal if someone doesn't believe in the afterlife, then yeah, you're right.
Well,
I
you know
mean,
what? That was a decent conversation, so thank you, Hannah. Good questions, good chat, and again, even if they didn't fully agree, it was a respectful conversation, and we don't get enough of those on the stream. We really don't get enough of them. So yeah, but she did agree with it, kind of partly, mostly. So we'll take that as a win. And yeah, it's good that more people are starting to think about these things. Hello, how you doing?
Is that me?
It is
I
you.
can't tell. I can't tell. Okay. So my question is, with the perspective that all suffering should be eradicated, and it seems that you have this personal responsibility to adhere to that, correct?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. So from my perspective, if we are able to find the positive within that suffering, if that suffering is a means to evolution and a means to growth and a means to
Now
be
just
able.
just replace the word suffering with slavery, and now see if it sounds worse, basically. Because the thing is,
Okay.
people use suffering as like this neutral term, but it's not a neutral term. It's as bad as slavery, basically, if not worse. So imagine saying like, what if we use slavery to benefit? Basically, that's kind of, it's the same thing.
Well, I think that if we are able to find, you said that joy, somebody said they're having like a balance between suffering and joy, or
Imagine a
entropy
balance
and
between
growth.
slavery and happiness, right? Like the slave owner is happy, the slave isn't happy. Can you call that a balance?
Were there lessons learned? Was there an evolution? Was there a growth involved?
So you support slavery?
I'm not saying I support slavery. I support the evolution.
But you won't say you're against it.
I'm sorry?
But you won't say you're against it.
I'm not going to take responsibility. I can only
so
take.
It's like, I don't support child abuse, but I'm not against it, right? That's basically what she's saying, right? Okay, moving on to another person. She's cooked and served big time, right? We don't even need to waste more time on that person. Slavery, that's a good thing, right? We benefit from that. Most people have this crazy mentality, right? Where they see suffering and, unfairness, and they think, how can we exploit this, right? How can we use their suffering for our good? And it's, it's something that we have to evolve out of, right? Do better, right? Animals have that, right? How can I exploit that animal? I can eat them. People have had it, right? How can I exploit that person? I'll make them a slave, or I'll make them suffer and benefit from it. So we need to get out of that mentality. Zero suffering, zero exploitation. Lucas, hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you? So I have a perfect solution for the problem. So we start, like you said, we start with the animals, right? So we get rid of all the animals in a humane manner. Then we create pods like the Matrix, right? So those that suffer, they can go to lucid dreams, right? Anybody that suffers can go to a lucid dream. The vegans, they are fine. They can still survive fine, but they cannot impose suffering anymore.
Okay, you know what? This is interesting. Okay, so you're suggesting a simulation, a matrix, and everything. But here's my question: is it really ethical to allow anyone to go into a simulation if it's not 100% safe?
Well, we can, with technology, we should be able to make it 100% safe. So
how can you guarantee 100% safety where it's physically impossible for it to go wrong?
Okay, so let me explain. The brain, already we have technology that can read thoughts, right? So we would have machine like an AI that's analyzing if the person is suffering or if they are having a good time.
Lucas, you're missing the point. The point is that it can go wrong, right? It's not foolproof. It's not a perfect system, right?
But why not implement this first and try to make it work? And then if it fails, then go to plan B.
Lucas, the first step would be to consider if it's even hypothetically a good idea, right? And we've already determined that it's not, right? Because there is no way to make that system safe, Lucas. There's no way to guarantee 100% safety. So there's always going to be room for it to go wrong, right? The people in the simulation could get tortured for billions of years if it goes wrong. So life should never exist without 100% certainty of safety, and only omniscience can potentially provide that. So without omniscience, that you just forget it, basically.
All right, I'll do some further research on it, and I'll speak to you at some point. Thank you for your time anyway. Good to see you.
Okay, thank you, Lucas. But yeah, that is our standard for safety. You would have to be all-knowing. You would have to essentially know for a fact that there are no unknowns. Because if there are any unknowns and you don't know everything and you don't know that there are unknowns, right? Unless you control the unknowns and there's none left, then they present infinite danger. So, in the same way that we're in infinite danger right now, there's no way to change that fact. Right? It's just simply impossible. Even if you're in a simulation, even if you're in a castle, okay, something can still go wrong. Unless you control everything, then there is no 100% safety, okay? Things can still go wrong. So even if you have a system where, it's designed that there is no suffering, right? It can still go wrong. You can still get trapped in a life of pure hell. Even if there's no pain, right? You could be staring at a blank wall for billions of years or something, right? So it can go wrong. If there's even if even the smallest chance that it can go wrong, then it's still not 100% safe. Okay, so life should never exist without 100% certainty of safety, and there is nothing that can do that except for extinction. And if you want to change my mind on that, then I am very happy to talk about it. Okay, let's see who else we got in the queue. Let's bring some more people up. Ben, hello, how you doing?
Yeah, what's up? Do you accept clarifying questions?
Yeah, you got a question or two for us?
Yeah, so do you hold to a welfare standard?
I don't really think so. No, I don't know about that, so no.
All right. Well, okay. I guess that's perfect then. So, I kind of just want to give a reductio on the extinctionist worldview. I guess the argument for it. So, the first premise, I guess, is just going to be the extinctionist premise is a moral claim. So, I mean, do you accept that?
We make moral claims all the time, right? Child abuse is unacceptable.
Yeah. Well, you're making. Well, yeah.
People do
No,
that
yeah,
all the time. People have been
accept
doing
the
that
first
since the
premise?
start of. People have been doing that since the start of time.
I agree, but it's kind of contradictory to what you just said. Like, you don't hold to a welfare standard, so that would be kind of contradictory.
Well, I didn't
Making
really
a moral
know,
claim.
right?
Well, no, yeah. So premise two.
Just use like basic languaging, right?
Yeah. No, I got you. So premise two would be a moral claim of the form X is required. It's going to be presupposing a welfare standard.
Right, Ben. All I can say is that philosophy has clearly rotted your brain into the ground. Right? Look, you're unable to have a normal conversation, to use normal words, which people can understand. You think that coming up here and saying you adhere to a welfare standard, you think anyone's going to know what that means, or that it's going to be a good conversation? No, just use normal words and just throw the philosophy books out the window. Nietzsche, gone. Right? Kant, gone. Just get rid of them. They are genuinely bad for you. Like we genuinely have banned philosophy in the movement. So if you're in the Discord and you start talking about Nietzsche, you will be banned, basically. Philosophy is actually bad for you, like literally. Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
Yes, hello. Do you have any questions?
My question to you is, have you ever explored matriarchal societies?
No, because what would be the point, right? It doesn't end all suffering. It doesn't make suffering impossible. And it's just a joke, really, right? It's not a real thing. It's some sort of feminist fantasy. Okay, next person. Hello, how you doing?
Hello,
What's good?
I'm suffering and I'm sick.
Okay. How bad is the suffering?
Like, it's just not fun. Honestly, like, I'm just sick.
Not fun
Like,
out of
I
10.
just can't be asked anymore. And this life is just too much for me.
Too much out of 10. Yeah, I agree.
Do I kill myself? Do I kill myself now quickly?
Well, I don't know. I can't make that decision for you. But I would say that ideally we could work to end all suffering with activism instead of just your own.
Okay, then I'm just gonna be sick and suffer then today.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people are doing that, but only so that they can do activism to end all suffering instead of just their own, right?
I do support you, but I'm just not gonna die anytime soon, so this is kind of pointless, honestly. Like, I'm not very...
Well, yeah, I mean, look, if you're not going to die anytime soon, then you've got plenty of time on your hands to do some activism, to grow the movement, to make it so that nobody has to suffer and commit suicide ever again, right? Look, if you want to commit suicide, then surely you should, have some sympathy for those that will have to do that in the future unless we put a stop to it. So, for people that really can't take being alive, that's your decision, right? We're not going to tell you what to do, but we will ask you to consider helping those that can't help themselves, right? You can end your own suffering. Well, not everyone can, right? Even suicidal people, lots of them don't have the mental courage or whatever to do it. They're too scared, can't bring themselves to do it. But if you can do it, then yeah, you can end your own suffering. Good for you. But what about all of those who can't? What about animals? What about human babies and children? What about disabled people? What about humans that just don't have the courage or the strength to do it, right? So we have to work for the end of all suffering for everyone. And look, we're not saying that, look, I've made videos saying if you commit suicide, you're selfish, right? But I don't really believe that, right? That's just to go viral, and that's worth understanding as well. We have to go viral for the movement, and if people don't understand it properly, then it's kind of collateral damage to an extent. But anyway, the point is we are against suicide. We want people to keep living. We want more humans. We want healthier humans. And look, if we take over the world, which we are planning to do, then part of our mission statement, this is something I should have said earlier because someone asked me earlier, and this is something I missed out. Yeah, we would be looking to make life the best possible for everyone, right? So not only would we be working towards total extinction, starting with animals and stuff, but, while humanity still exists, we would be looking to make it a utopia, a perfect world where, everyone is looked after and, life is good enough to where hopefully less people will want to stop living, right? And, part of the reason to do that is because we need more humans, and, the happier they are, the better conditions they're in, the more they'll be able to help animals and other life and work towards the best extinction that we can do. So yeah, if we take over the world, we'll be trying to make it a better place for people to live. We'll be working towards less suicide, more children. Unless we can rely on robots, then we will be encouraging people to have kids and making it a nicer world to bring up a family. Hello, how you doing?
Hey, what's up? I'm 26.
Great.
I just tuned in. So, according to your premise, the world would be better off without humans, correct?
No, it's not that at all. So it's that each individual in the world would be better off not existing. So it's not about the planet or anything. It's about all life.
How can you speak for everybody? Like, some people are better off existing. In my opinion, my life is great. And
yeah, but it's not fair though. But it's not fair.
Who are you to say my life is not fair?
Well, my name's James. My name's James.
What?
Yeah, my name's James.
Well, why are you saying my life is not fair?
Well, because, is it fair for you to have a happy life while someone else is having the worst life ever?
So your solution is for me not to exist, so it's fair.
Well, you see, if you don't exist, then you won't be able to suffer, and you also won't be able to reproduce and create someone who's going to be forced into the worst life ever.
Well, how do you know I'm suffering? I'm not suffering.
Well, it doesn't matter, right? You have the potential to suffer, infinite potential. So there's nothing stopping you from becoming
That's okay with me. Wait,
Yeah.
you're saying it's an issue, but I'm saying it's not an issue for me.
So,
Why are you making
yeah,
decisions on my behalf?
Cruelty shouldn't be allowed just because you think it's okay.
Well, wait, what? Cruelty shouldn't be allowed because I think it's okay.
Yeah,
Like, I
extreme
never said
suffering
it's
shouldn't be
okay.
allowed just because you feel like it.
So you're saying I shouldn't exist because I don't mind my own suffering?
No,
Or
that's
potential
not.
for suffering.
You shouldn't exist because, yeah, you're not essentially capable of making responsible decisions for your own safety, the safety of others, and you're in infinite danger where essentially you could become trapped in a life of pure hell, regretting your decision, right? So,
So your solution is to how are you going to go about exterminating the biological life on Earth? How are you going to go about
euthanasia.
forceful euthanasia?
Yeah.
So let's say you're down to like the last 100 people, and you find them in a room. Are you just going to like forcefully euthanize them against their will?
Yes.
Do you know what that's called?
Euthanasia.
Do you know what forceful euthanasia is called?
Well, when they use it on animals, they call it euthanasia.
Right, but if
Okay, well, thanks for coming up and that great conversation. Let's see who else we have in the queue. Okay, we've got Kolo Kochit coming up. Hello, how you doing?
Hey, hi, I'm good. How you doing?
Great, thank you. Do you have any questions?
Yes. How come you came up with this solution?
I didn't. The movement started 4 years ago, and I joined 1 year ago.
Interesting. And what made you join the group?
The idea of ending all suffering just immediately appealed to me. And, I realized it was the right thing to do, that it was possible, and that we have to do it.
Yeah, it is possible, but how will you get it done?
Yeah, so we're growing the movement until we have enough people to take over the world, start running it, and then we start doing extinction.
Okay, sounds like Thanos playing right here.
Well, no, Thanos wanted life to continue, right? He just wanted there to be less life. We want there to be no life.
Interesting. No life at all. Not even microorganisms or like cellular level.
Yeah,
You're talking
because
about now.
if you leave bacteria, they'll just evolve back into humans.
True. Could be something else. You never know. But
Yeah,
still.
something worse even.
Yeah, interesting. Yep, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you, friend, for sharing.
All right, Colo Chokit, thank you for coming up. We've got quite a few more people looking to debate, waiting to debate, so we're going to move on. But my girlfriend has just entered the chat, and she's watching and wondering why I've not come to see her yet. So we're going to have to, call it shortly. But Angel EC, hello, how are you doing? Hello. Okay, nope. Some people do join the queue by accident and come up on stage without realizing it, but it's okay. We have plenty of more people in the queue looking for a debate. So moving on to the next one, and we've got. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm good.
Great.
So you and your movement intends to get rid of all life on Earth to exterminate suffering, correct?
Beyond Earth as well, if we can. Yeah.
Okay. So I do have one specific question to ask about this. It's probably one you've heard before, but I'd like to know how, morally speaking, how would you justify getting rid of all life on Earth forcefully?
Easily. Easy. Piece of cake.
Well, I mean, I know that, but I'm saying your goal is to do that because it'll end all suffering, correct?
Well, we're working towards the most vast and thorough extinction possible. So we have to scientifically determine how much extinction can we do. Can we prevent other planets from developing life, for example? So, there's a lot of moral obligation that we have to explore and look into first.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we would have zero life on Earth, we would have zero life in the universe, and also prevention as well. So zero possibility of life in the universe ever again. That would be, the dream.
Okay, one more question then. Why do you choose extinction instead of pouring all of those resources you would need to do this into simply advancing life to a point where we can eradicate suffering through advancement of culture and technology?
Because technology and culture can't actually make suffering impossible, right? You can work towards a better world, but you can't actually work towards a perfectly safe world. So as long as life exists, there is no way for it to be perfectly safe. And so only extinction can guarantee no more victims, no more people and animals being trapped in a life of pure hell.
Mm. There are some who more argue that total extinction is also impossible to work towards.
Well, we're happy to hear their arguments.
Well, nice talking to you.
All right. Thank you, Ronin. Thank you for coming up. And yeah, obviously it's very challenging to do extinction. You have to take over the world. To be honest, the science is kind of the easiest bit, right? We are extremely confident that we could do total animal extinction on Earth. That should be pretty easy, to be honest with you, right? And so, even doing the science to, prevent life developing on other planets and stuff, we honestly think that'll actually be quite easy. The thing is, right, is that once we're running the world, we'll have access to all of the science, right? We can actually do the science properly. We'll actually have control the whole planet, right? We can say, right, we're going to open a science center there and there. So that will actually be easy. The hard part is actually taking over Earth and controlling it. So we are working on doing this, and it's not a joke, as much of a joke as that actually sounds. it does need to be taken over and run ethically anyway, right? It's run by Trump, warlords, billionaires, dictators, right? Thieves, liars. So, and they're running it in the worst way possible, right? Where, they're torturing animals, they're torturing people, they're starting wars for fun. So, yeah, we need to take over the world, and that will be kind of the hardest part. Or at least for now, it seems like the most challenging thing. But growing the movement until we have enough people to do it is the right way to do it. So we're doing that with videos, we're doing it by reproducing. Some of our members are also donating sperm so that 20 years from now, there'll be hundreds of new activists as well. So we are looking to essentially outpopulate non-extinctionists, right? So working towards an extinctionist planet. So we'll either do a revolution with like 1% of the population or something like that, or we'll try and outpopulate them, or we'll take force, with an AI potentially or something like that. Or we'll do it democratically maybe, right? So we are exploring every single option. We're looking into pluribusing the planet. We're looking into, psychologically trying to get people to agree with extinction, which we can do actually. So it's just the propagation of that which would be more difficult at the current time. Anyway, so I think we're going to have to call it there. I know that everyone's here wanting more debates, but I've been streaming all day, basically, the last 2 or 3 hours. And if you want to watch more of my debates on TikTok, they're all on YouTube. So you've got, every time I do 2-3 hours streaming on YouTube, on TikTok, I post it on YouTube. So you can check that out by going to Universal Extinction on YouTube, and you'll find my channel. I've got like 100 episodes of my debates here, so you can go and watch loads of them. Like some of them get really crazy. So Universal Extinction on YouTube, you can go and watch all my debates. But follow me, and I'll be streaming pretty much every day. So check with me tomorrow, and I'll be making more videos, streaming as well. And join us on Discord to continue the conversation, or to debate as well, or to ask questions. The link to our Discord is on my profile on TikTok, or you can Google search Abolish Suffering Discord. So thanks for joining us, everyone, and I'll see you all for more debating on TikTok live stream tomorrow. And in the meantime, check out my YouTube channel, Universal Extinction. You can watch all of my debates, and we'll see you all tomorrow.